Welcome all. Thank you so much for attending. Just want to take care of a small order of business before I begin officially. I want you all to take a look at the chat function on the right side. Oh, good. I already have a message. Hello, Brooke Ray. And that's what I wanted to see. I just wanted to make sure that you guys were able to communicate with me. I believe there is a bit of a delay, a small delay when you guys write in and when I write in. Hello, all. Welcome. Okay, let's get going. I know that at least one person out there can see me. Maybe type into your bar just to make sure you can hear me as well, just to make sure that my mic is up and running. It should be all set to go, but I just wanted to make sure there. And again, that delay is coming, so I'm not seeing anything yet, but I think we're pretty good. I'm so glad that you guys all decided to attend tonight. This is Clear Your Space, Clear Your Mind, Create the Home that you love. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Tanea Kohler. I work with people in their spaces, helping them to truly own and take pride in their homes. The people I work with tend to fall into one of three categories. People who have been taking care of others or working too hard to focus on their space and then hit a point in their lives where all of a sudden they have a bit more time and space to reflect on their own needs. Oftentimes, these folks feel barraged by constant clutter surrounding them. These can be parents whose kids have hit an age where they need less of their parents' attention. It also tends to be a time where you look at your space and think, what happened here? This space may reflect who I was when I became a parent and the stages my kids have gone through in their development and the stuff associated with that, but it does not reflect who I am and certainly not who I want to be in the future. Uh-oh, okay, Brooke Ray's not hearing anything. Let's see. Maybe nobody's hearing anything. Okay, okay, sounds like audio is not quite working. Let me take a look at that. Can anyone out there hear me? Okay, let's see. Let's do options. Oh, Jennifer can hear me. Fantastic. Okay, good. The sound. Okay. Looks like. Okay. Jennifer can hear me. B-Ray, if you can't hear me, check out your mic. Can't hear any sound, just connected, reconnected, it's still the same. Okay, let's have you tried a headset. Penny, do you have a headset on? Don't think you need one, but it might help. Oh, good. Okay, fantastic. Brooke Ray can hear me as well. Okay. Lori can hear me. Okay, I'm so glad. So I'll keep going then because it sounds like everybody could hear me there. I was just talking about the people that I tend to work with and helping in their homes. And the second kind of people that I tend to work a lot with are people moving through significant transitions. Divorce, retirees, empty nesters. Many of these people have lived in the same house for 20 plus years, which typically means they have accumulated a lot of stuff. And they realize that their home or some part of their life, while many times quite full of beautiful things, feels somehow stagnant, but they're not quite sure what to do about that. And the last category of people who find my services really helpful are those who are looking for a new home, remodeling, adding on, or building from scratch. Their current space is not meeting their needs, and they want help ensuring that their next space does. I'm going to take a little poll out there and see how long you all have lived in your current house. Let's see if this poll feature works. I'm going to start the poll. So it should show up on the right side where your chat bar is. You might have to click on polls. How long have you lived in your current house? less than 6 months, 6 months to 2 years. I'm just going to let that run for a second, and you guys can click on an answer, and let's see if that function's working. Okay, great. So I've got some information coming in: 6 months to 2 years, 10 to 20 years. Great, 2 to 5 years. Okay. Okay, just to kind of get a sense for where we are. I want to tell you a little bit about me and how I got to this place of helping people create fully functional spaces that support their endeavors. And then we will get to the meat of the talk, tips and strategies that you can use immediately in your space. My whole life, I've been interested in homes, in the spaces where we spend our lives. And if you're here tonight, I imagine it's because you also feel drawn to your space and are looking for tools to improve it in a way that can advance your life. For the past 15 years, I've studied and worked in the visual arts, psychology, feng shui, interior design, architectural drafting, space planning, and store design. It has been a winding journey that enabled me to discover little by little how to create spaces for living and working that fully support me and who I want to become. And now I'm thrilled to be able to share with you what I've learned. In the brief time we have tonight, I'm going to give you as much information as I can, things you can act on right away. At the end, if you're interested in having help as you delve deeper into your space, I'll let you know how you can get that. I like to look at a space through a number of lenses, like taking a core sample of your home. First, there's the landscape around your home, what it was built on, what surrounds it. Then there is the architectural level of your home, whether or not I'm helping someone as they build or remodel. How your house is built and the footprint it occupies has an impact on you. Inside the home, there is how the space was planned. And I'm forgetting my presentation here. So that's the landscape around your home, the architecture of your home. And inside, that's how the space was planned and how the interior is designed, the smaller scale decisions, most of which were made while the house was being designed and built. Then there's the interior decorating. Those words have mixed connotations, but how you decorate your home, furniture selection and placement, paint colors, etc., can have a lot of impact on how you feel in that space. And finally, there's the psychology of the people who inhabit the space. Our state of mind, how we feel and act as we occupy our spaces significantly impacts how pleasant it is to be in that space. I have training and experience in all of those levels. The work that I do is a combination of these layers, from the big picture to the smallest detail, and it's focused on helping you make your home a beautiful expression of who you want to be, your best self. One of my underlying beliefs that is central to my approach is that your space reflects you, your past, your present, and your future, and that elevating the energy of your space will elevate your personal energy too. You may work with an architect or a designer because they have a particular style you appreciate. You work with me so that you can help find and express your own authentic style and tap into your values and priorities. Someone who walks into a home that a certain architect has designed can see that influence. If you walk into a house where I've worked, it won't be evident from the style that I've been there. It will be evident from the feel. I'm not interested in making your home look perfect. I'm interested in making your home the kind of functional, supportive environment that works for you. I'd like to start out with a little free association exercise in which there are no right or wrong answers. I want you to take a moment to reflect on the words, images, or feelings that come to mind when I say the words house and home. As these words come up, feel free to type them into the chat bar on the right. Now, bring to mind your own house and notice what words, images, or feelings come to mind. Are they the same or different as before? And you can type in any of those observations as well. With a delay, I'm not seeing anything come in, but what I've heard before is, what I've heard before are words like family and security. Yeah, I see refuge, safety, calm, and love. Your home is definitely all of those things. In all of my education and experience, one thing has become clear to me. The spaces in which we spend the vast majority of our lives, our homes and workplaces, have a big impact on our happiness, productivity, and physical, emotional, and psychological well-being. Put another way, our spaces affect us profoundly. I want to illustrate this point with a couple of examples. Back in Santa Cruz, I worked in the corporate offices of a big box retailer designing stores ranging from 6,000 to 50,000 square feet. The work was creative and challenging, but the physical space I worked in was depressing. A large corporate office, there's home, there it is, a lot like that, with more than 300 people working there, and everything gray, walls, carpet, cubicles, gray. Despite a daily need for collaboration, our workspace was set up to hinder teamwork. Both floors of the corporate office were mazes of cubicle walls. This setup led to challenges for both the company and its employees. Company-wide surveys showed that people working in the retail stores were happier than the folks at the corporate office. Theoretically, our jobs were comparatively cush, and yet my colleagues at the corporate headquarters were less happy than their retail counterparts. Being the proactive worker that I am, I finagled my way into a meeting with the sitting CEO, the Senior Vice President of Business Development, and the Vice President of Human Resources. To say the least, I was intimidated, but it was important to me to do whatever I could to make our workplace a space that helped workers be happier and better employees and colleagues. I pushed through my nerves and detailed for them just how depressing the space was and how unconducive it was to collaboration. And I'm glad that I did. I'm a person who is very intuitive about space. Many of us are. However, there are also those people who are very good at other things and have never thought about how a space affects their productivity, their happiness, their focus. The CEO, who was a talented businessman in many ways, had never really considered how the building could affect his employees' performance. He never thought about how the office itself would contribute to worker turnover. And then he asked me a question I should have anticipated or at least had some sort of coherent response to. He asked me, well, what should we do about that? What's the next step? That prompted a really busy time in my life. I had a year-old baby at home. I was still taking night classes in interior design. I had a full-time job designing our retail stores, and they also put me in charge of a design committee that would make decisions when they needed to be made about the space. They weren't exactly willing to put a lot of money into the project, and a full-scale cubicle redesign was not in the cards. But it just so happened that the entire office was due for a paint job, that a handful of bathrooms needed a refresh, that they were open to making branding statements within the office that could make associates feel proud about where they worked. It was the beginning of my career in putting the power of color to the test. It was also a huge learning experience in how personal color is, how impossible it is to please everyone in a setting like that. My first project was the paint color in a back staircase. There it is, which was never intended as a main entrance. It had become the portal into work for 80% of the folks who worked there. It had no natural light. It was drab, gray on gray, beat up, worn out, depressing. I wanted to bring in the sun, the blue sky, a freshness. Knowing what I know today, I would have picked slightly different colors, but the paint job was certainly an improvement from the dingy gray. If you can only make small changes or on a tight budget, a space's entry area will give you a lot of bang for your buck. And paint is affordable and can significantly change the space, the feel of a space very quickly. The retail world revolves around the psychology of how people shop and why people buy things. Most of you are aware that the way stores are set up is not accidental. They are directing you specifically to think your life would be easier or better somehow if you bought their products. But the power of space is not just limited to big box retailers. Human culture has a long and rich tradition of intentionally designing spaces to enhance their positive and supportive qualities. In China, this is the wisdom of feng shui. In India, it's Vastu. Medieval cathedral builders also knew the power of space to capture and influence human attention. For hundreds of years, we have built magnificent, lofty spaces of worship that uplift, that literally draw your gaze to heaven. When you step into Notre Dame in Paris, you can't help but feel hundreds of years worth of pain and suffering and hope and joy that people felt in that space. Not only does the space itself create feelings within you, but the feelings people have in that space remain there. I want you to hear that because it's important. The feelings people have in a space remain there and can continue to affect the current occupants. Once again, the spaces you inhabit affect you, and a big part of this effect is the energy created by the feelings that space elicits. We know this intuitively about depressing office spaces and Gothic cathedrals, and it's true in schools as well. In the past few years, Finland has been repeatedly praised and noted for the high quality of its public education. An education ministry director there attributed their success not only to a predictable focus on curriculum and equal access, but also to how the environment and design of a school is supporting students' learning. He went on to say that in their new school designs, every single detail has a meaning, a purpose. This is how we must approach our own spaces for living and working. Now, how does this concept play out in the home? I moved to Hailey, Idaho with my family in 1987. My parents bought a house from the bank for $30,000. It was in terrible shape. It hadn't been lived in for some time, and you could feel not only that, but also the state of mind the people had been in who had lived there before us. Us kids, we hated the house, but my parents bought it. That's what they could afford. And they began a decade-long remodel of the space. My dad working full-time and coming home to work on the house late into the night. I imagine that was a difficult time for my parents. 3 young kids, both working full time, trying to make our house into a home. And they did a fantastic job. The interior was my dad's beautiful woodwork, from the kitchen to the stair railings to the nook for the dining table. And yet, the home was not able to support them in getting ahead financially, in staying healthy in their relationship. I tell you all of this so that we can begin to think about spaces differently, because I'm convinced that the house I grew up in, despite the tremendous efforts of my loving parents, was working against us in serious ways. I wasn't exactly thinking this way as a kid, but I've since learned a huge amount that has allowed me to understand much more clearly what ailed the home that I grew up in. One of the most effective set of tools in my toolkit comes from the Chinese tradition of feng shui. In home design, there are guidelines for optimal spacing in bathrooms and kitchens, heights of counters, distances between lights and countertops. Well, feng shui is essentially like that, a set of guidelines for optimal flow and comfort within your household. My first exposure to feng shui was in a housewarming gift from my mom, Feng Shui for Dummies. It's really quite a fantastic overview. I was fresh out of college, setting up the first home I would call my own, and I devoured that book. Everything I read made so much sense. As I read it, I thought constantly of my childhood home, and it helped me come to terms with my parents' marriage, which had crumbled during my middle and high school years. It helped me begin to look at the monetary issues that I'd inherited. It was like I could read the events of our family life on the floor plan of that house. I want to explain that a little bit more. In feng shui, every area of the home relates to an area of your life. I'm going to take another little poll just to see if you guys have any experience with feng shui out there. Let's see if this is going to come up. Okay. So I'm just curious if you've studied feng shui or if you know anything about it. So I'm going to start the poll. Have you studied feng shui? Nope, and I don't think I'm interested. No, but I'm definitely interested. I've heard about it. I've read a few books and or blogs, and I've studied it for years are your options. So take a look at that and put in your answers. I just want to get a sense of where we are. So most people have heard about it. Okay, interested in it, fantastic. Okay, so in the house that I grew up in, the abundance or wealth area was totally missing. Behind our home, rather than having a hill or a rise to help support us, something that literally had our back, there was a steep downward slope where all the energy could escape. The center of your home relates to your health. It is ideal to have a nice open space here. In my home, our bathroom was in the center, and in every bathroom is the toilet, which is the strongest drain of energy in any house. Our front door looked nothing like this. It was a placeholder, a proper entrance, but also inconvenient. We never used it, guests never used it. This is quite common in homes, especially those with attached garages. The front door is neglected by all but strangers. In Feng Shui, the front door is a meaningful part of your home. They call it the mouth of qi, or where all the energy is able to enter your life. If your front door never opens, it's difficult to allow that life force, that energy into your life. The main bedroom in the house was in the relationship area of our home, which is a great place for it, but it had only one orientation for the bed. The headboard sat on the same wall as both of the doors you could enter through. So it's like this picture, but imagine another door as well on the other side of the bed. Feng Shui describes an important concept called the commanding position. You want your couch, your desk, your stove, your bed, any place where you spend time and want to be able to fully relax or completely focus to be in the commanding position. This means that from where you sit in bed, you can easily see the main door into the room and that the path of the door doesn't cross the bed or the desk. You don't have to turn your body in order to see what's coming. Being in the commanding position, we are able to put all our energy into the task at hand, be it cooking, working, sleeping, or relaxing. When our back is to the door, we are constantly hearing little sounds and wondering and checking what is happening behind us, consciously and subconsciously. This can make it difficult to sleep well, which affects all our other areas of life. For a master bed to sit in that position in the relationship area, it is not surprising that the couple will literally feel surprised by what their relationship brings, which is a problem. After 18 years of marriage, my parents divorced, and while I wouldn't say that the house was the cause of the split, it's clear to me now that the house was not supporting them nearly as fully as it could have. All of the issues I mentioned can be fixed. You can use cures and intention to remedy these issues without having to build a mountain behind your house. But you can't fix a problem you don't know about. Again, I tell you all of this because I want it to be crystal clear how our environment affects our consciousness. The way we design and use our home should not be accidental. The intuitions we have about a space are not fictional. There are choices you can make so that you feel comfortable and supported in your home and also in your life. Everyone has had the experience of walking into someone else's home and feeling at ease, welcomed, wanting to stay there. And the opposite too, I'm sure. That is a product of the space itself, how it is populated, furnished, filled, and also the experiences that have happened there. I want to talk about the average home, which might resemble your home in some ways, and the areas where I think many people could benefit from what I've learned in my career. 21st century Americans live in big homes with a vast number of objects. We rearrange our things, but in the end, we feel the same, exhausted, overwhelmed. We live in a time of big homes getting bigger. I have a client who built a new home during the housing bubble, and her main complaint about this very large, beautiful new home was that she was lonely. She could go all day without seeing any of the other 3 people who lived in that home with her. We all remember when flipping a house was normal. A house was more of a commodity than a home, more of a way to make money than a space to make your own. Often, when a subdivision goes in, a whole slew of houses are built without anyone thinking very carefully about what it will be like to live in them. I work with a couple who live in a decent-sized home, but without spaces that flow together. The master bedroom is enormous, but the dining room is too small. This can lead us to believe we need more space, when really we need space that makes sense. What we need is functional space. We also live in a time where stuff is easy to come by, of planned obsolescence. We live in a time where families, especially those with 2 working parents, may have higher disposable income and yet less time to spend at home. Our homes become a dumping ground where things become disowned and yet they remain. We believe, perhaps rightfully, that we need more space, that we need a bigger home to fit all of our stuff or to fit the people who live there. We rent storage spaces to house all the extra things we can't yet let go of. I helped the couple with their space who were always busy, always out doing awesome things, teaching their daughter how to cross country and downhill ski, hiking in the mountains, signing up for 5 cross country ski races in a season, weddings galore. But things at home were hard and slow. They were having marital problems. They spent little time maintaining the stuff in their house. Their basement gear room was packed. It had boxes of old baby stuff. The decision whether or not to keep it seemed tied to a bigger question. The husband lived for years with no bedside table, but rather the dog beds down on the floor next to his head. I want you to think of your bed as a representation of the balance in your relationship or desired relationship. You want the two sides to be equal. It turns out whenever he arrived home, he felt so overwhelmed by all the things to do, he never wanted to stay there. So out they would roam. I totally get this. I've been there. Getting outside and doing the things that you love is important. But spending time putting energy into your own home represents the energy you are willing to put into yourself and your relationships. Your space reflects your own body and life. Only when you decide it's time to put in the effort will you reap the rewards. In other words, how much time you spend attending to your home, giving it love and attention, directly relates to how well it will support you in your life. This concept has helped me define my life's work. I don't want to tell you what to do in your home. I want to teach you how you can design your space to support your desires and goals. Let's do another individual reflection. I want you to think of something in your home that you don't love or that brings you frustration. This could be an object, a piece of furniture, a paint color, or even a whole room. I want you to feel into this for a moment. What does that feel like when you imagine that object? As things come up for you, I want you to type into the chat bar any feelings or thoughts that arise. Sometimes what arises when you think of that object is why it is still in your home. If that's the case, type that into the chat bar as well. The reason you've kept it. Inertia, you feel bad getting rid of it. Okay. Now I want you to picture something in your home that makes you happy. Every time you see it, that brings you joy. Notice how your body feels as you imagine an object you love. Examine that for a moment. And again, if you feel comfortable doing so, share any of those emotions that come up or thoughts that come up. Yeah, so I'm seeing for those objects that frustrate you or that you don't love, there's overwhelm there. There's areas that are too small that don't work where you hit each other when you're working. Yeah, and then for those objects that make you feel happy, there's calm, there's an expansiveness, an inner and maybe outer smile. There's openness and trust. Great. It always blows my mind how a single object in our space has this type of effect on you. So now, if a single object makes you feel that way, I want you to think about the combined effect of any objects that lower your energy and the combined effect of those that raise it. Imagine how you would feel if when you came home, everything around you, everything you saw when you stepped in your front door brought you joy. Imagine instantly feeling at ease and satisfied with your life. Imagine entering your home and feeling light, clear-headed, inspired. Imagine sleeping well and feeling rested when you wake up in the morning. Imagine a relationship with your significant other so steady that you can focus on the deeper connection you want to have with that person. How would your life be different if every time you arrived home you thought, I love my home? I challenge you tonight to begin to think differently about your space, to know fully that the spaces where you spend your time and the objects you surround yourself with have a profound impact on the life you live. I am here tonight to tell you that living the life you dream does not have to be a fantasy, that this is achievable, and that it's not going to happen on its own. If all of this rings true for you, you'll take what you learned tonight and begin to apply it right away. Just beginning the process will bring you energy to continue. And then when you feel stuck or come up against a roadblock, as often happens, we can have a conversation about your needs. So it's time to sit up and listen. I'm going to walk you through the 5 steps that you can take to help you get from point A, the reality of your current space, which could look like this. This is a before of a space that I worked in, to point B, where you want to be, a home that uplifts your spirit and supports your endeavors. Starting October 1st, I'm taking an intimate group on a 10-week transformational journey in the form of my pilot program. During this time, we will delve deeply into these same 5 steps that I will outline for you here tonight. By the end of this pilot program, you will take command of and truly own your space, creating an ease and balance that may not have been present before in your life. You will also fall in love with and find joy in your space, or know what kind of space will fulfill your needs and support your life's work. And lastly, you will create a dynamic space that reflects the person you want to be, a space that inspires you on a daily basis, gives you energy, makes it easier to be that better self. And I would ask that if any friends or family members come to mind as you listen to these 5 steps, please send them the link to the replay so that they can also reap the benefits of a more supportive space. The first step in this process I will take people through is to assess your space. This involves placing what is called a Bagua map on top of your floor plan by aligning it with your front door. This map will identify the location of different areas of your home, your career, self-knowledge, family, abundance, fame, relationships, creativity, helpful people, and health. Those are called the 9 Bagua areas. Performing this space assessment allows you to map out your home and how it relates to these different areas of your life. You begin to clearly identify the spaces in your life that challenge you and reflect upon what is going on in that particular area in your home. For example, if you are experiencing health issues, you would take a look at the health area of your home, the very center of your home. Is there a lot of stagnant energy there? Are there closets that are too full or not used much? You want to find any blocks in your space that might help open up new solutions to the problems you've been having. A few other examples will begin to incorporate the next step in the process. I'm going to go back to that slide as well, which is how to deal with these problem areas. Some recent clients that I worked with have 2 bathrooms, so here's their space, that fall within the abundance or wealth area of their home, that back left-hand corner of your home. They were having a hard time making ends meet. Each month they would think, wow, we just pieced it together again this month. In my work with them, they placed a hanging object above each toilet to help draw the gaze up to counteract the effects of the downward pull. I generally use multifaceted crystal balls, which you see here on the right above toilets, which they hung above their toilet there. But really, you can use anything that resonates for you. Soon afterwards, she had a huge influx of clients, and over time, they've begun to get very real about their monetary needs, which is a very good way to bring in exactly what you need. I also want to point out in this bathroom, this is kind of a midway after shot where they've hung their crystal and they actually did some organizing work in there. And you'll see that below the mirror, there's another paint color. They actually painted that bathroom, and then soon afterward, the husband he's like 6.5 feet tall. He's really, really tall. And the wife is, normal size, but not tall. And he realized that all of the mirrors in his house cut off the top of his head because he was so tall. So they shifted that mirror up, which is fantastic because you certainly don't want your mirrors to cut off the top of your head. It's very, very demeaning. And I'm just taking a look at the chat. Okay, so in my own house, my home office falls in my self-knowledge and wisdom area of my life. The house was built in the 60s, and when we bought it, this was one of the most dated rooms. It had plush red shag carpet and tiny, busy little floral print wallpaper. It wasn't at the top of our to-do list, which is extensive, so everything remained for a time. But after a while, we realized that when the room was closed up, you would get a pungent whiff of cigarette smoke when you opened the door. That was a game changer for me. I ripped out the carpet, hoping to find the original cork flooring underneath. Unfortunately, it was just 1/4-inch plywood. I wasn't totally sure what flooring I wanted in there in the long run, so I ended up painting and varnishing the floor in a fantastic pattern that I love. The wallpaper also seems to have smoke residue in it, so I've begun the process of removing it. I have one wall finished, painted in a fantastically warm espresso color. But the point is, with every layer I peel back, physically, I feel like I'm removing old layers of my own skin, patterns and habits and past events that no longer serve blocks in my personal wisdom. Which brings me to an apt illustration of the second step in my pilot program, which is learning how to cure the issues that plague your specific home and your emotional well-being. Cures alone are helpful, but they are made exponentially more powerful through intention. So in this slide, it says, the more intentional you are about your lives, the more you are practicing holding the frequency that you desire to experience. State your intentions, be bold. Intentionally changing the energy around a problem creates a much more powerful and effective solution to any problem you are having. Instead of just hanging a crystal ball over your toilet, you imagine exactly what will come your way with this cure, how it will allow you to retain and save money rather than having it flow away. Curing issues with intention can uplift your career, regulate your relationships, increase your ability to attract wealth, stabilize your health. It is an incredibly powerful tool. Within this step, we will look at how to set up a bedroom to ensure a good night's sleep, how to set up your house in a way and apply cures in a way that stops money from draining away, that allows you to bring more money in. We'll look at the heart of your home and how opening it up can improve your health. And we'll look at how to set up the entrance to your home in a way that attracts the energy you're looking for. I want to delve into your home's entrance for a moment because this area is one of the most important areas of your home, and changing it is a great way to begin to shift the energy of your whole house. This area is the first impression of your home, not only for your guests, but even more crucially for you. Let's do an exercise around your entrance. I want you all to close your eyes. Imagine arriving home, pulling into your driveway or riding up on your bike. You park your vehicle. You approach whatever door you most often use. As you open it and step inside, notice how the space smells. Maybe fresh if you've had the windows open, or stagnant if it's been closed up. Notice the condition of the room you enter. Does it feel dingy? Does it feel light and airy? Does it feel spacious? Do you have that space around you, or do you feel cramped or unsure of how to proceed? Take note of the things around you. What do you see? Do you see the television? Are you smack dab in the middle of the kitchen? Do you see a cozy living room where you could take a load off? How do you feel when you come into that space? Do you feel bogged down with all the things that you see that need to get done? Do you just want to plop yourself down in front of the TV and not think about how you feel? Or does the space uplift you? Do you feel at peace? Okay, open your eyes and feel free to type it in the chat bar how you felt when you opened your front door. Did your energy drop? Did you feel at peace? Were you surrounded by only those things that brought you joy? That's a hard one. We enter our homes multiple times every day. I want to emphasize that how we feel when we enter our home is incredibly important. The next time you arrive home, or even after this call tonight, I want you to go outside and take a minute to notice how you feel as you approach your door. How you feel when you enter your home with new eyes, as if it's the first time you've ever entered your home. If entering your home depresses your energy, then take a look at the things around you. Do you love them? Do they all need to be there? If not, it's time to get them out of that space. Ideally, if you don't love something and it's not useful, then pass it along to someone else who will find joy in it. Good, Lori, I'm so glad that when you walk into your home, you feel good energy and peace. And I know that you went through a seriously huge purging of things in the past few years, and that space is just exactly the way that you wanted it. I'm so happy. And Brooke Ray feels a little cramped. The entry's narrow and crowded, yeah. But then she sees her living room, which she loves, and it's inviting. Good. So yeah, taking a look at at all the things that you see in your space, just look and see, does it need to be there? Does every little object in there, does it need to be there? Because it will feel less cramped if the fewer objects that are there. Good. Christine feels happy and peaceful and inspired. Let's talk about how you can use intentions to make decluttering your entrance infinitely more powerful. In feng shui, the main entrance to your home generally falls in the career or journey area. If the entrance to your home falls, here's a little graphic for this, I believe. There we go. So if the entrance to your home falls on the left side of your house, then you are entering into your self-knowledge or wisdom area. If the entrance falls on the right side of your house, you are entering into your travel, helpful people, and community area. Say my home has a front door smack dab in the middle of the facade, in my journey or career area. While I remove any unnecessary objects that don't bring me joy, I think about my career, my journey in this life. I think about removing all the aspects of my career that don't bring me joy. I think about removing all the blocks that have kept me from fully loving my career. Even if I don't generally use my front door, I hang up some hooks for my coat so that I feel welcomed when I arrive home, so that guests feel like they should stay. And I imagine that welcome extending into my career so that I am able to feel at home in what I do. Do you see how different that is from just going home and removing objects you don't love? There is so much power in seeing that newly refreshed space and not only loving it, but thinking about how it's going to help you be fully satisfied in your life's work. Okay, in step 3 of my pilot program, we're going to look at a variety of methods to clear and cleanse the energy of your home. Think about old energy like dust. Imagine all the energy of everyone who has ever lived in or been in your home, the ups and downs they went through. Energetic clearing is like removing this thick film of dust that has settled into carpets and walls, drapes, sofas, and antiques, a deep energetic cleaning. The energy that no longer serves you can be predecessor energy, the energy of the people who lived in the home before you. This can be your own energy, the hard times you've had in that space. Or this can be the energy of the people who built or remodeled or worked on your home. I'll tell you a story of the first time I ever did an energetic space clearing. I had moved into the second apartment I'd ever called my own. It was a fantastic space, lots of great light. There is a blessing you often do in a home when you first move in, or sometimes when you are trying to create a large energetic shift. It's called the orange peel blessing, and it involves spreading water infused with hunks of orange peels everywhere in your space. It also involves leaving open your windows and doors as much as possible for 24 hours. The apartment was in a small town on the second floor of this great old house, and I started at the front door, which was never left open, the front door to the house. I proceeded up the stairs and into my own apartment door. Behind me, I'd left a trail of orange peels in the common space. After I finished the blessing, I headed out to go on a run, and my then boyfriend, who is now my beloved husband, came over to see if I was home. He could instantly tell that something was different. The front door to the apartment building was open. The front door to my apartment was open. As he entered my home, I remember him telling me that he thought perhaps some sort of orange peel bandit had broken in. Now that we own, in remodeling my own home while we lived here, it became crystal clear how important it is to clear out the energy of that chaotic time. We had subcontractors in the space daily for 2 full months, folks that we were incredibly grateful to have working in our home. And yet the process of building is sure to bring out frustrations. Movement can be slow, people often hurt themselves and scream profanities. The energy all these people bring, whether good or bad, is not the energy that you want to remain in your home. Step 4 of the pilot program is a big one where you will learn how to declutter your home and organize Declutter your home and bring in less. This slide is a little bit crazy because sometimes the clutter feels like that. Early in my career, I did work in people's homes helping them to declutter and organize their spaces. But really what I found is that I could go through your stuff and help you get rid of things you don't use and organize it so that it is efficient and easy to access. But if you don't change your habits, if you don't learn how to be more selective about what you bring into your environment and more clear about what and when things should move along, then it doesn't matter how perfectly organized I leave your space. Within a week or a month or a year, the space would devolve back to its original state, where things are hard to find, where you might not even know if you own something already, so you go out and spend money on another. The easiest way to allow energy to flow more easily into and through your home is by removing objects, small and large, clearing out this visual static. Everyone has a different criteria for how they decide to get rid of something. Haven't worn it or used it in a year is a common one. People also have reasons behind why they keep things. Many times it's because an object was gifted to you, it belonged to a loved one, or it reminds you of an important experience. I find that when people form attachments to their stuff or to a lot of stuff, there is always a psychological component behind the why. If you've ever experienced lack, or if your parents did and you grew up in a household where nothing was ever thrown away, then you probably know what I'm talking about. I myself have worked through and sometimes still work through issues of significant attachment to objects. There are 3 fantastic resources on clutter that I want to recommend. First is a book that is all the rage right now by a Japanese woman, Marie Kondo. It's called The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. I imagine some of you out there have read it. Culturally, her view is quite different from ours. For me, about 90% of what she says is right on, and 10% I would never do. The only criteria she uses in determining whether or not to keep something is, does this object bring me joy? It is an incredibly powerful tool to be able to listen to and hear your inner self. It's like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. You start the process with your clothes and move through books and papers, etc., until you get to photographs, the most difficult thing to let go of for many people. When I went through this process, I had already gone through my closet twice in the past 2 months, and I was horrified by the number of tops, just tops, that I owned. So I took a picture. Oh, there it is. The KonMari method, as it's called, is brilliant in that when you pull out everything in a specific category and put it into a pile, all of one type of thing you own, it's easy to become embarrassed by the sheer amount of things you thought you need. It also makes it easier for you to realize the plenty that you have and be on board with passing along the items that no longer bring you joy. After going through each clothing category, I had 2 more garbage bags full of clothes to get rid of. I didn't understand how there was anything left in my closet. And yet, sure enough, I had all I needed, and anything I pulled out made me happy. My drawers were no longer stuffed, there was no need for extra dressers, and I could find what I was looking for. A client told me about the experience of walking into a friend's space. This is not her space, but this is kind of what I imagine it might have looked like. The wife was Japanese, and clearly she was of the same mold as Marie Kondo. When you entered the home, they had everything you needed to be comfortable: a couch, a nice chair, a coffee table, and nothing more. There was one single beautiful piece of pottery on a side table. That was essentially all of the decoration. For our culture, that's a pretty extreme example, and it's not for everyone. But imagine giving your favorite piece of art that much space to fully love and appreciate it, to have it be the center of attention. The second great decluttering resource is called Clear Your Clutter with Feng Shui by Karen Kingston. I highly recommend it. It's an easy read. And lastly is a book for any parent out there that struggles with all the stuff of having kids, or grandkids for that matter. It's not a book specifically or entirely about clutter, but the section on stuff in Simplicity Parenting by Kim John Payne is incredibly powerful. I have endless stories about clutter. Everyone has challenges with this one. Recently, I worked with a couple, empty nesters. This is their space on the left before and their space after. They felt like they were surrounded by clutter. The woman confessed to me that there had been times She thought they needed a bigger home to house all their things, the kids' stuff, the family heirlooms, the photographs, and yet they rarely ventured upstairs anymore. They didn't even fully utilize half of their space. They had enough space but felt crowded by their things. She also felt significant frustrations with her husband about all the stuff everywhere. They are still in the process of clearing out the things that don't bring them joy. But even midway through this process, she feels lighter. She mentioned multiple times that she felt like a weight had been lifted from her shoulders, like the space is less oppressive, like she's carrying less on her back. She also hadn't been having people over for years because her kitchen was so cluttered. It seemed dingy. She didn't even want people to see it. This is a more extreme example because they ended up remodeling it. But once the remodel was finished, they began to have people over, large gatherings of old friends where they would cook for 30 to 40 people, something they hadn't ever done. Changing their space allowed them to establish this connection with their community. I hear this a lot where people don't want to have friends over or host book club because they don't feel like their space accurately reflects them. The fifth and last step of my pilot program is looking to your internal chatter. What do we have there? There we go. So far, we have looked at the alignment of your internal and external environments, how your space reflects your life, your relationships, your career, your health. And now it's time to delve into your internal and external dialogue or thought patterns, becoming more mindful of what you say out loud to others, and more importantly, what you say to yourself. It is important that the way you talk to yourself doesn't sabotage your endeavors. So on the left, Eckhart Tolle there, who's just fantastic, says the primary cause of unhappiness is never the situation, but your thoughts about it. At the end, you will have a very clear picture of how to align your external landscape, your home and its environs, with your internal landscape, your emotional and spiritual well-being. You will be more surrounded by joyful things than you have ever been before. You will love your home in ways that you may not have thought possible. All of this work that you do in your space, it will have ramifications on your life. Many of these will be immediately positive, but I want you to be aware that there could be issues that come up as well. There will be issues that come up as well, or physical manifestations of the work you do. Moving large pieces of furniture, for example, will unearth literal and emotional dust and cobwebs. We can't fully create change in our lives unless we choose to face the fears and limiting beliefs that we have. I have a client who went to town on her house. She had recently visited an old friend who had the perfect home and no kids to mess it up. When she returned to her house, she thought, well, maybe we'll work on it in 12 years when the kids are out of the house. But we set up a time to meet and made a list of things she could focus on, and they just went for it. They moved their bed to a better location, brought up the energy above their bathroom drains that happened to be in their wealth area, repainted the whole house, moved tall cabinets for a better sleeping setup, rearranged the couches, etc. And she was wowed. She loved her space all of a sudden. She also had a slew of new clients immediately ask for her services. But after all the shifts, she had a serious bout of allergies come on and she started having trouble sleeping. I did an energetic space clearing at their house to help clear out the energies that had been disrupted. Their bed covered a significant area of carpet in their room. When they shifted it to the other side, a whole section of carpet was exposed that hadn't seen the light of day in 10 years. She attributed the intense allergies to this. The sleep issues passed within a week or two, but it didn't surprise me that they occurred. If you begin doing the good work of giving your home the attention it deserves, letting go of objects that no longer bring you joy, you may experience the unearthing of old issues. Be aware that when the light shines on these issues, that means you are one step closer to releasing them. Go easy on yourself and those around you, and do your best to love yourself right where you are. But don't let that block derail your progress, which is what it intends to do. The process of moving forward requires that you slowly but surely come to terms with your past. You will only be inspired to move forward and make these changes when you are ready to do that. Here's what some folks I've worked with had to say about their space after the fact. After working with Tanea, our relationship to our home changed in that we felt more connected and more of a sense of ownership. Even though we already try to live simply, we definitely got rid of a lot of unnecessary and unused stuff. We feel even more at ease with the way our lives are unfolding. Our space nurtures and nourishes us even more now. Paige and Ryan Redman. Leanne Sandel and John Kurtz, I failed to get before pictures of their remodel, but I began working with them. She says, I'll read what she says. We began working with Tanea when we were close to finalizing our architectural remodel design. Soon after our first session, we realized we should have brought her in when the design for our remodel began. Even so, with her input, we were able to make adjustments to our original design that made a big impact on the final outcome. She helped us understand the overall flow of our home, what to add or take away from our design to create the climate we wanted. We gained more appreciation for the objects we love most. She was able to show us that our favorite photos or pictures could be the catalyst for the mood in a room. The idea that every wall doesn't have to hold something was also refreshing and allowed us to realize that simplicity can be best for a space. Working with Tanea helped us to have more control over how we want to feel in our home, helped us realize that the layout and design of the home can have a significant impact on our everyday life and the cohesiveness of our family. And Elaine and Ed Redman, who remodeled their kitchen, this is another view of their home. Tanea helped us revisit our home and make key changes to provide more energy and space to the existing rooms. My husband and I feel more relaxed and in tune with our living space. It's a wonderful feeling to walk into a room and smile with peace and harmony. Thank you, Tanea, for providing us tools and suggestions to change our mindset to a new direction of possessing less and creating space in which to live. Personally, for me, this is my space, some before and afters of our home and our bathroom and our living room, which went through a pretty good sized remodel. I noticed the impact of setting up and living in my space intentionally in aggregate. Life still throws its twists and turns my way. I have good days and bad days, just like everyone else. But overall, life is smooth. I don't feel surprised by what comes my way. When my mental chatter becomes judgmental, I am mainly able to see that for what it is, just a thought, not who I am. I have a close set of girlfriends and we all have our moments, our issues. But when I see how steady a direction I am on in my life right now, I know for certain that this path I am on is powerful. That living in my space intentionally helps me be satisfied and present and excited about who I am becoming. And so I'm excited for you all tonight. So happy to share with you my 15-year journey and hope that I was able to give you some pointers that really get you started, that really get you motivated, that make you realize just how big a difference our spaces make in our lives. Our spaces can tend to hold us back. Most of our things are reminders of the past, who we were a day ago, a year ago, a decade ago. It takes effort to set up your home in a manner that supports not only who you were and who you are, but also the person you want to be. I liked this quote. It says, "Each morning we are born again. What we do today is what matters most." And so often our space is a place that is just a reflection of who we were yesterday. And it's really difficult to make those changes, to make them have significant impact in our life. If you are ready to delve deeper into this journey, I am happy to say that after this webinar, you will have the opportunity to schedule a free strategy session with me. This 30-minute one-on-one strategy session is a $100 value. In this session, I will take the time to figure out exactly what's going on with you and your space, what your challenges are, what is keeping you from your next level of growth, from more satisfying relationships to more income to reliable health. Clearly identifying these challenges will allow you to move one step closer to taking command of your home and your life, to creating a space that reflects the person you are today and who you want to become, a space that inspires you on a daily basis, that supports and embraces you, the home you love and are proud of. I have 10 strategy session spaces available. I obviously can't meet with everyone here, but if you're sick and tired of living in a space that does not resonate with you and you're ready to invest in yourself in a real breakthrough, please schedule a strategy session. You need to sign up now while it is on your mind. I'll talk with 10 people this week, so sign up right away if you want a spot. For those of you who will be listening to this on replay, I will reserve a set of strategy sessions for you next week. But if you are really ready to take that next step, be sure to act expediently. On the screen is the URL your page will be redirected to when this webinar ends. I'm going to open the floor up to some questions. Please send in any questions through the chat bar. Again, there's a slight delay, so don't worry if I don't get to yours right away. But if you have any questions about what I've talked about tonight, or specific steps or strategies, or anything that you'd like me to talk about more, I would love to answer some questions for you all. And while those come in during the delay, I'll tell you a little anecdote about my own journey. When we moved across the country from New Haven, Connecticut to Santa Cruz, California, we downsized from 1,300 square feet that we had filled because we had the space to this fantastic little 500 square foot apartment in an old Victorian. That was just the reality of living in Santa Cruz. And we got rid of a lot of big stuff before we moved, futons and tables and desks, 10 years worth of plants, but we still had a lot of stuff. I joke about how we could only fit all of our stuff into our new home because we had 12-foot ceilings. We built shelves in the closets right up to the ceilings. We had that place packed tastefully. In feng shui, when you have closets and cupboards that are so full, it means there is no space for new opportunity to find you. The process of clearing out clutter is a process of allowing new opportunity to enter your life. Ideally, your drawers and cupboards and closets are 50% full and 50% empty. When I first read that, I was incredulous, but I will tell you that over the years, I have found that to be completely doable. Living in that space for 4 years, I was in the constant process of paring down. We added a baby to the mix partway through our time there and all the accoutrements that come with. And we learned to seriously purge and to be very mindful of what we brought into that space. That's the nice thing about living in a small space. I think I saved one pair of adorable little Carhartt overalls that I've since passed on to my cousin. And the rest of the baby stuff we passed along to other people who are making that same transition. Living with 2 adults and a toddler in a space like that helps it to become crystal clear exactly what things you need and don't need. If we didn't use it, if we didn't love it, it didn't make the cut. When you are able to let go of items you no longer need or that you don't currently use, you are telling the universe that you know you will be supported in the future. And that's exactly what happened. We added a second child to the mix a year and a half ago, and we have had a steady stream of hand-me-downs, everything we need. I have never once regretted passing along one single baby item. Okay, so we have a question coming in from Lori. What do you do with daily clutter, mail, and all the things you walk in with? Really good question, Lori. So that, again, relates back to your entryway and making sure that it is set up for coming into your house. You have a basket or a place, it doesn't have to be a basket, a spot where you put the mail, and that's where you want it to be easy to get to. You want it to be close to your front door or on the way to the kitchen or wherever you normally go. And you want it to be a space where it's easy to sit down and open the mail or stand up and open the mail. Whatever is easy is going to be what works. And the daily clutter, it's really interesting because Marie Kondo, she talks about her decluttering, and she doesn't do the feng shui bit, but the decluttering bit is a very powerful part of that. And she says that when you go through that process once of going through all of your things, making a pile of every single book that you own and picking it up and seeing, does it inspire joy in me? You don't have to open it up. She doesn't, you don't want to open it up. You just want to pick it up and say, does this bring me joy? And she says that once you go through that process, you're never going to have to do it again. And I love that confidence in her. And she might be right. I have yet to see. But I would say that what I have found is that feng shui is much more about that daily use of your space. About, there's constantly stuff coming into your house, more stuff coming into your house than you get rid of. Even though I'm very mindful of that, there's always more stuff coming in than I'm able to get rid of. And so I'm not so sure that that's going to happen just once in my life. And it does take, moments of picking up, but just making sure that you have those like hooks when you come in to put your bag in, and a place for your mail, and just a spot where you put all your stuff so you don't have to move it again is huge. It's a really good place to start. And there was one more thing that I wanted to say about that that is escaping me right now. All the things, the daily clutter. So when, I have 2 kids and I'm still constantly picking up, but we just have, it's easy pickup. It takes, 5 to 10 minutes, not even at the end of the day, to throw all of their things into a basket, because we're pretty mindful about their toys. And I can talk about that a little bit more if anybody's interested in, that's more of the simplicity parenting vein. But when I do so, I feel like I used to pick up clutter constantly, and I would be frustrated. I would be annoyed that I was always picking up after everyone else in my house. And what I have found is that, when I simplify, it makes it easier. And B, I don't do anything when I don't want to be doing it. Basically, if I am doing something and I am frustrated that I'm doing it, I stop, because that is the energy that you are putting into those things you are picking up. That's the energy you're putting into your space. So I stop and I take a break. I go outside, I take some deep breaths, I do whatever I need to do so that when I come back to that task that still needs to get done, I'm in a good state of mind, so that I'm putting positive energy into my space on a daily basis. Ideally. Okay, I'm going to tell one more little story of clutter while any of you think of any good questions that you have. I'm sure that you're going to think of some when we're done, so type something in there. But I'll tell a short little story about some folks who remodeled their house, who I have helped out a little bit, and they had a basement space, or it was a first floor level, but it was unfinished, and they added in a set of internal staircase, and they made that space a fantastic living space. But when they were remodeling, they opened up a wall that was kind of like it was a little space that was at an angle, like it was under the stairs, the outside set of stairs, I think. They opened up that wall because they were putting in a bathroom right there, and they uncovered previous debris from a previous remodel. It was, big pieces of metal, heavy sheets of metal, and just heavy stuff that would have been expensive for the people who were previously remodeling to deal with, to take to the dump. And so they stuck it in the wall. And what I found really interesting about that is that the space that was above it in the main living space was their pantry, and it was kind of above this outdoor staircase and the side door. It was, a pretty big thoroughfare, and also their pantry. And it was this tiny little space. It was not an ordinary pantry. It was a pantry, it was a laundry room, and it was also this passage to the back door of the house. And it was about maybe 3.5 feet wide by 6 feet long. It was not large. And it doesn't surprise me that all of that stuff, all of that big stuff, began to accumulate above where all of that remodeled debris had been left. Thoroughly cleaning. So whenever you clean something out, whenever you look at a cupboard, or you pull out all the stuff in the cupboard, you wanna clean the heck out of that space. You wanna wipe it down. You don't want any dust. You don't want anything left, because the second you leave one single object in that space that doesn't belong there, all of a sudden, all of these other things are going to accumulate. And I can be, this happens to me as well. I clear off my desk space, but I'll leave one, notice or reminder of something that I need to do, and all of a sudden there are 5 things by that spot. So cleaning down to the bone and really like not leaving anything that doesn't need to be there is super important, so that, you don't have other, like objects attracting themselves to that space. Um, yeah. So let's see. I don't see any other questions coming in. What I'm going to do is see if, I'm not actually 100% sure how to unmute you guys. I was thinking about unmuting you guys to see if you had any physical questions or just if you wanted to say hello or say goodbye. Let me pull that up and see if I'm able to allow you guys to speak. Oh, here we go. Let me see if that does it. So I just pushed a button that perhaps allows you to say something if you would like to have a question, but I'm not hearing any background noise. You may have to push *6 to be able to unmute yourself. I'm not 100% sure about that. But since I don't have any questions coming into the chat bar, I'm just going to say a huge thank you for attending tonight, and I hope that you really gained valuable strategies for your own space and that it gives you a starting place. The tip sheet that you received in an email is also kind of goes into depth a little bit more, into more detail than I've gone into tonight. And so that's a good place to start as well. And please do sign up for a strategy session if you really want to delve into your space and take a look at what areas are really causing issues in your life. I would love to work with you. Thank you all so much for coming, and I'm going to redirect your pages to the place where you can sign up for a strategy session in a little bit. But if you close your own window, it will also redirect you there. So good night to you all, and happy homemaking, and hope to catch you again on another webinar in the future.